So today we're going to be proving a simple, we'll do a simple proof for a theorem, right? The theorem in this case is going to be for group theory, which is in a group, the identity element is unique. Correct? Identity element is unique. So let's provide a simple proof for this, okay? So for the proof, let's try to just check this, approach this in a different way. What if we say that there is more than one identity, right? So let's assume there is more than one identity, correct? So let's do that, right? So let's assume the element identity that of identity 1, 2 pertain to the element, sorry, to the group, right? So I'm saying that there's more than one element. So for the first case, right? Case 1, or yeah, just I actually want to call it case 1. Let's just continue. So let's consider that element 1 is the identity element. Then E times anything will provide that anything, right? So let me rephrase that again. So consider that E1, right? E1 is identity element. Then E1 times anything will produce anything, correct? So so E1 times, in this case, or E2 will equal E2, right? So E1 times the identity element will produce the anything, or E1 time, sorry, consider E1 being the identity element, then E1 times anything will produce the anything, correct? Anything, E1, and whatever we're doing here. But how about, so you see, if you understand this, let's continue, correct? So now let's consider E2 as identity element, right? So if E2 is the identity element, then E2 times anything will produce the anything. So in this case, let's rewrite this again. So if E2 is the identity element, then E2 times anything will produce the anything, right? So E2 times, we could say E1, the anything will produce the anything, right? Anything. So if this is true, right? This is saying this case is 2 element element, then we could consider that E1 must equal E2, correct? Right? So it is unique. Does that make sense? So this for the first case, right? We're saying that E1, E2. We're saying that let's assume there's more than one element. So there's element 1, element 2 of group G. Right? So consider, first consider E1 is identity element, right? Then E1 times anything, right? E2, whatever, will also produce E2. Now, since there's another part, right? E2, right? E2 is, we're taking that as identity element. Then E2 times anything will produce anything. E2 times anything will produce anything. So it's fair to say that E1 is the same as E2. And I hope that makes sense, correct? So, like I said, the theorem was in a group, the identity element is unique, correct? So let's first think E1 and E2 are both part of the group. They both ways, no matter when you make them the identity element E1 and E2 separately, they produce anything, leading to that E1 must equal E2. Thank you.